Joining me now is Annie Cyrus. All right, a lot of people right now are not very happy in the MAGA world because an ISIS leader who had a $10 million bounty on his head has now made it into the White House. Jelani. Here is a picture right here. There is a picture of him next to J.D. Vance in front of the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. And a lot of folks are very unhappy about this. President Trump, and I'm going to have Annie respond to this. We're going to have Hadia on in just a minute as well. Pull that down. Let me go to a video. I have a video of President Trump. I think I have a video of him making a comment about it. I bet you Annie hasn't even seen this yet. Here we go. Listen and watch.
Some announcements on Syria. We want to see Syria become a country that's very successful, and I think this leader can do it. I really do. I think this leader can do it. And people said he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts, but he has had a rough past. And I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough past, you wouldn't have a chance.
Okay, a rough past. I appreciate President Trump in a lot of ways, but a rough past. The murder of people and the murder of Christians is not a rough past. This is a murderer. Okay, we have people in prison in the United States, and yet this man is being commended and invited into the White House. And earlier this weekend, maybe you can show video footage of it, Logan, the leader of Syria playing basketball with some of our military officers. Now, this has got a lot of people on social media really hot under the collar because they don't think we should be making alliances with people that have murdered Christians. And this is the first time I think a Syrian president has ever come to the White House, much less one with this guy's background who had a $10 million bounty on him just a few months ago. Joining me on this and more, including what's going on with Iran, is Annie Cyrus. Annie, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me back, Brennan.
So he has a rough past.
Brennan, you know I love you to pieces, and I have the utmost respect for your opinion, but I appreciate nothing about President Trump. Nothing. What he did today was betraying Americans, spitting on the grave of every single man and woman who fought in Iraq, and on top of that, he just proved to the Islamic world in Middle East that we are ready on silver platter to be handed over to them. This isn't about somebody's rough past. It's about the fact, first of all, I need to set the record straight because one of the agendas of him being in D.C., the excuse was he's going to join the coalition of the one that America created to defeat ISIS. And he did. But let's be clear, Jelani, today known as Al-Sharaa, Jelani was not an ISIS leader nor an ISIS soldier. He is an Al-Qaeda operator. Did he cooperate with ISIS at some point? Yes. But to make things very clear for anyone who thinks, oh, he's a former ISIS soldier because he agreed to go hunt ISIS down now, he started the Al-Qaeda Syrian chapter. That's how HTS, his military, his jihadist group came from, the Syrian Al-Qaeda. He is still an Al-Qaeda operator. He still runs his jihadist militia that Trump administration removed from terrorist list with absolutely no proof of change of behavior. So yes, Al-Sharaa, also known as Jelani, has the blood of American soldiers, innocent Christians, and Druzes on his hand to this day. So yes, I appreciate nothing about President Trump, his operation, his policies, or the way he's running this country.
Well, I folks, you know, one reason we love having Annie on is because she says it the way it is. And I understand her frustration and her anger because Annie understands Islam and she understands what Islam is really all about better than myself, better than Robert Spencer, better than almost anybody because she experienced it. She lived it, okay? I understand it from an intellectual way. She understands it from a practical way. She lived it. So, again, Annie is trying to warn Americans we're being set up You know, it's like I said to Aaron a few weeks ago, came to Israel. Your country is being groomed. Now get ready to be raped. And that's exactly what's going on here. We're being groomed as a country, so we should expect the rape real soon. And here he is playing basketball with a bunch of our military guys here in the U.S. I mean, I don't know what most veterans are thinking that had their limbs blown off or their friends who were blown up and never came home, but I think a lot of them are ticked. Now, I think I saw a congressman today standing with his, prosthetic legs, because I think he had his legs blown off. But he was standing next to him. There it is. Thank you, Logan. Getting his picture with him. Now, I don't know under what condition this gentleman, who I think served in the military, lost his legs. And thank you for your service to our country. And I'm not about to criticize this man. I'm just simply saying, and everybody's free to do what they want to do. I just don't know why, if you lost your legs in battle fighting Islam, you'd stand next to a guy that was all for Islam. But that everybody's free to do what they want to do. But I know, just as he's free to stand next to that guy, I know a lot of veterans today that feel betrayed over this. Right, Annie?
Absolutely. And I agree with you, Brian. And everybody's free to do whatever they want to do in America, as long as our freedoms come with a very nice footnote. You are free to be who you want to be, do what you want to do, as long as you are no harm to yourself or others. Today, what happened is harm to others. Me and you and the rest of America. When you open the door, here's the thing, you generously allowed my show to go on for 2 hours instead of 1 hour today, because I had to cover a lot. And on my program, what I did say, which is on my morning Substack that came out today, I kept it very short because I'm out of explanation to do. But I did mention, based on our law, Brannon, in America, it is a felony if you advocate financially for a designated terrorist person or group, or arrange travels to America for them, formerly or not. I don't care if Trump administration lifted the bounty from him and removed the HTS from the terrorist group. They were in, meaning they were identified as a terrorist group and as an individual terrorist. That's felony. That's a crime. You can't just switch the channel and say, you know what? Today I feel like this good-looking guy can make the Syrian future better because of his rough past, because he can kill more Christians. That way Syria becomes better, of course. Every Islamic country becomes better if they kill all non-Muslims. Yes, President Trump got a great point. If anybody can make Syria great again for Syria, it's Jelani, because he's not afraid to kill Christians or Druzes, or anyone that's not a Muslim. You can't just decide. There is no proof. I read the entire documentation, Brannon. There is no proof that HTS has made any commitment. They have not signed any paper. They have not committed to change of behavior or operation, but they were removed from the terrorist list. As far as Jelani goes, here's how I look at it. Putting aside my absolute knowledge of Islam, my scars of Islam aside, as Christians, we believe in repent and ask for forgiveness. Have you heard anybody make El-Shaddai repent and ask for forgiveness yet? Because I haven't.
No.
How did we forgive him then? Now, legally, by law of our state, if you committed a crime against Americans, either soldiers or citizens, you have to stand trial. Why did we skip trial? Who found him not guilty and just lifted the bounty? When did that happen? Let's be honest. I never thought in my life I would say this, but here I am saying it. When Obama invited Muslim Brotherhood to the White House, this country blew up. Though he committed no crime. To this moment, Muslim Brotherhood is not a designated terrorist group. So he just invited Muslim Brotherhood. Today, Trump administration invited a designated leader of a terrorist group and a designated convicted terrorist to White House. What happened? If Obama does it, no. If Trump does it, it's part of his plan. Of course it is. It is part of his plan. But not the plan people think it is. It is definitely not part. You do not make America safer by giving free pass to convicted jihadists who are still convicted jihadists to come and have a tour in D.C. and go to Capitol Hill and meet with your lawmakers and then come to White House. You just don't do that.
Annie, what are you
Yes.
reading online from veterans and MAGA people today about this? What are they saying?
On my personal page, I see mixed signals. I had comments such as, relax, trust Trump knows what he's doing. I cannot believe this happened under Trump. I had people saying, I thought this would be Kamala's move, not Trump. So kind of a mix. However, majority are extremely disappointed in the fact that this happened under Trump's watch per Trump's request and approval. I would say 80% very disappointed, very concerned. 20% is still covering up for him and saying this is part of his 257D chess.
All right, let's go to another story. Surprise! NATO ally and supposedly neutral mediator Turkey graciously welcomes senior Qatar-based Hamas terrorists for a terror summit in Istanbul this week. Keep Hamas state-sponsor Turkey and Qatar out of Gaza's reconstruction efforts. Listen to this little clip here.
Summit on Turkey
me.
held a terrorist summit on Istanbul on Wednesday. Surprise. Yeah, Turkish intelligence chief Ibrahim Kalin touched base with Hamas about the Gaza ceasefire. Here we go again with our NATO allies and their Hamas clients. Kalin met with a delegation of Hamasniks headed by Khalil al-Hayya. He's the lead guy on Hamas's negotiating team, and he's based in, wait for it, Qatar. Yeah.
Annie?
Yes.
What do you
On
think?
top of that, I want to create this, and that's the thing. I normally do it on your show, and then a few months later, I come back on your show and say, remember that day? Let's draw a quick triangle here. Turkey, Qatar, Syria. Remember these names, Brannon. As we're being groomed and we better get ready for the rape, when the rape happens, they're going to name Iran as the rapist to cover up for their alliance with Syria, Turkey, and Qatar. The triangle that is being set right now, we start selling weapons to Turkey. Immediately, Turkey is sending weapons to Syria, while Syria turns around and said, how about this? Let me make friends with Israel, as Turkey goes to Qatar and starts shaking hands with Hamas members. And they all fly under approval of Trump administration. All of them. They all suddenly, as you said, yes, history was made today. The first time a Syrian president or head of government since its creation, which was 1946. Since 1946 until today, it was the first time a Syrian president was invited to not just come to America, but to meet with lawmakers and go to White House. Turkey, Erdogan, recently we did the same thing, right? Not making history, but Erdogan was basically boycotted from our White House, but Trump opened the door, had dinner with Erdogan again. Qatar, well, we established the fact that Qatar owns Trump and his entire family. All three, very much, one way or another, under al-Shara, because al-Shara has said publicly during his leading of HTS and being a militia, has said that his mission and goal is to wipe Israel off the map. Erdogan has said the same thing. Hamas says the same thing. Hamas is Qatar. So why would our administration enable, empower, and legitimize the very top three enemies of Israel? Because Trump administration is the strongest American ally of Israel. Okay, we believe it.
All right, let's go to this. U.S. Muslim teens line up like 500 Jews and execute them in front of their wives, then take their wives as slaves. Article by Daniel Greenfield. This has to do with an Iranian American poet, right? And his son. Can you tell me about this?
Yes, that was the report I sent you, the brief report of it 2 or 3 days ago. So two men or young men were arrested. One of them in New Jersey. The Iranian guy you showed. Now, he was born in America to an Iranian father. The father is a poet and also a professor somewhere in New Jersey. The son is American born. The other person who was arrested, you want to take a guess from where, or should I just say it?
Yeah, say it.
Turkey. he was picked up at New York airport on his way to Turkey and destination Syria to join the jihadists there. Both of them were arrested. One, they were both plotting. They were part of the plot of a Boston Marathon bombing style bombing in New Jersey. That's their number one crime. The second thing, now that one is allegations, so I have to say allegedly, the father and son, the Iranian American father and the American born Iranian by race son, were also involved in teaching and spreading how to kill Jews, how to harass Jews, how to, basically they're anti-Jews again. And this brings me to this question, Brannon. When I say as an immigrant, I think for next 5 years, we should cap our acceptance of immigration to 0 so we clean up the first generation of jihadists in America. Am I being radical?
No.
This boy was born in America. Salman Rushdie's the stabber was born in America to Lebanese family who had alliance with IRGC. We need to clean house, including myself. Every immigrant of Islamic countries needs to be monitored. Their kids who were born in America need to be monitored. We need to clean house. We can't just give 7,500 a year is a good number. No, it isn't. We are draining in infiltration. Close the door. Do not allow anyone from any country. We don't have the time to do the process. Look, we issued a visa for a Palestinian who came to America after committing crimes of October 7th. That's proof we don't have what it takes to bring people in through clean process. Let's close the door. Let's start cleaning house first. I'm not even talking about illegals. I'm talking about legals. The first generations. How many more first generation Iranian, Lebanese, Syrian, Indian, Pakistanis are we going to catch in America until we start a process of cleaning house?
Let me go to bring in Hadia here. Miramade. Here's the headline. We've kind of been jumping off of Annie's Substack at liveuptofreedom.substack.com. From bounty to briefings, Trump's embrace of Giuliani is betrayal, not diplomacy. She worked inside the U.S. government trying to set up so-called moderate Islamic networks in 37 countries, if I remember correctly. Not one of them worked because of all the Gulf money that is continuing to fund anything but moderate Islam, as there is no such thing, of course, as moderate Islam. There are Muslims who don't practice, but there's no moderate Islam. She joins us now with Annie Cyrus to continue our conversation. Hadia, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me.
What do you make of this today? We've shown a picture of President Trump in the Oval Office with Giuliani. There he is. We also have, I don't know if you've seen the statement by President Trump today. If you didn't hear it already, here it is.
Some announcements on Syria. We want to see Syria become a country that's very successful, and I think this leader can do it. I really do. I think this leader can do it. And people said he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts, but he has had a rough past. And I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough past, you wouldn't have a chance.
What do you make of this tonight?
I know it's very disturbing for us to see this happening at this point in time, but I have to tell you, it's been happening for 30 years. It happens under every administration. And I was thinking about this case in particular and his statement because it is something I heard in the State Department, in the military, in the government repeatedly. It is street cred, credibility. Who is the credible Muslim? So when I and maybe a handful of others were trying to empower reformists, moderates, and when I say moderates, we were trying to empower reformists, people that were willing to take the Quran and say, this is invalid, this was just historical context, basically to rewrite Quranic, interpretation. Of course, at this point in my life, I realized that that was a futile effort, but at the time, I believed it was possible. But every time we tried to suggest that, every government official was like, No street cred. You don't have any credibility. You need to use the extremists, the Salafis, the Wahhabis, the whatever, to affect their own people. You're not a credible voice to them. And so this policy just gets repeated over and over again because that's the way they see this paradigm. They don't see it as Islam is a threat and therefore what are we going to do to minimize the threat to this country and abroad? They see it as, wait, we're going to take this terrorist and we're going to reform him and he's going to bring about change because they trust him. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And those of us that know better look at it and think that it's ridiculous. But I'm telling you, this has been the policy for decades. And my question is, and so what are we going to do about it? Instead of throwing stuff at the TV and getting upset, really, we have to decide as Americans, who are we? We're schizophrenic at this point. There's, a whole faction of Americans that literally want to destroy what we are. You see those ridiculous women saying, yeah, Sharia's coming, like this, like so ignorant. But that's what they're saying. I mean, those are what the people who vote for Mamdani and all of these other Muslim candidates want. I mean, they really think that that's okay. So half of America or less or more, whatever the numbers are, want to destroy what America stands for. And the rest of us want it to look like the country that our founding fathers envisioned. So what are we going to do about it? What is the American church going to do about it? What is the American populace going to do to fight back? And we have the same constitutional liberties that they do. So if they're saying it's freedom of religion, so are we going to use our freedoms to advance our purposes? It really is going to come down to the people. We can't look at government to solve this. They never do. They always choose the wrong horse.
And now I'm reading that our U.S. government has unfrozen nearly $120 billion in Syrian assets. Have you heard this, Annie?
Yes. Yeah. Originally, we lifted all sanctions. Last week, per United States of America's letter to UN lifted all sanctions, then followed by UK. And then today, after al-Shura's meeting with Trump signed off that their frozen assets can be unfrozen as well. Yes.
And he is the former leader of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, correct, guys?
He's not a former. He is still the leader. He is not former. He has started as Al-Qaeda, became the Al-Qaeda Syrian chapter, then rebranded his Al-Qaeda chapter to HTS, and he is still the leader of HTS. However, HTS has become the official military of Syria, so nobody looks at it as a terrorist jihadist group anymore.
And it was removed from the terrorist list. So
it was removed, yes.
Okay.
It is officially acceptable.
So let me ask you each, you first, Hadia. Is Al-Qaeda planning a terrorist attack on the U.S.?
I'm sure they are. I mean, that's what all the, if you read the reports that come out from memory that post all of the ISIS so to me, I don't make a distinction. I don't like to put them in these neat boxes because they get labeled based on what's expedient to the country.
Okay, so I understand that. The names are really to confuse the living daylights out of most people because they're like...
Right, so is there a jihadist terrorist attack planned? I am sure.
Okay, but I want to concentrate specifically on Al-Qaeda and have a reason for doing it.
Okay.
So you think Al-Qaeda could indeed be involved with other groups to plan a terrorist attack in the U.S., true?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Annie, do you believe Al-Qaeda and other groups are working in concert to plan a terrorist attack on the U.S.?
100%.
So if Al-Qaeda is tied back to Jelani, and Americans are now seeing him as we are tonight in the streets outside the White House, greeting him, he's playing basketball with our military leaders, as we saw earlier, and I can show the video again for those who maybe haven't seen it. If he's playing basketball with our leaders, and these are all the images around the TV and social media tonight, then how are the American people going to be told that the big terrorist attack that just happened in America was by Al-Qaeda if indeed this guy is tied to him and he's now our friend. In other words, are we being set up for a terrorist attack that will be blamed on someone else? Because they surely aren't going to say, oh, the guy we just dragged into the White House, his group's behind it.
Iran's going to be
They'll
the
just
fall
rename
guy.
it.
Okay, go. You go first, Hadi. Go. What did you just say?
Yeah, they just rename it. That's why I said the names don't matter, because they'll be like, it's not Al-Qaeda, Syrian chapter. It's Al-Qaeda Pakistan chapter. It's Al-Qaeda. No, it's actually Iran. It's the Iran-backed Hamas. They just keep playing a shell game with the names and the countries to blame it on who they want to blame it on. So,
but you understand the point I'm making, which is if I'm Jelani, I'm like, this is such a massive PR move for us. Because we can get our money unfrozen, get validity, get authenticity as peacemakers and good people, strong guys, good-looking guys with a rough past, but it takes a guy with a rough past to get it done. And we're getting all of this rebranding. And how are they going to blame it on us? Because now they have invested in us publicly. I mean, he must be laughing, Annie.
They're all laughing.
Well, but that's why I am more outraged today than any other administration doing whatever it is that they've been doing. Here's the difference. Yes, I actually, Hadi John, before you joined, I was using the example of when Obama invited Muslim Brotherhood to the White House. Outrage,
Repeatedly.
everybody angry. But yes, but they weren't invited as the president of a place, as the good-looking guy who's our friend, and we're lifting sanctions and we're allowing Saudi Arabia to pay their debt. It's like we're upping our game on setting up Americans. Yes, this has been going on, but it hasn't been going on to this blunt stage where me and you know how badly we're being set up. And yes, Jelani is laughing, not just Jelani. A lot of them are laughing. A lot of them are laughing tonight.
Okay, so tell me,
is rolling off his chair tonight.
Now tell me what you think. I want each of you to tell me what, I know it's guessing on your part, but if you had to guess, what are Jelani, his aides, and the people tied to him and the various groups, what are they saying to each other tonight? What are they literally saying to each other? If you had to guess, what do you think is the high probability, Annie, you go first, of what they're saying?
MashaAllah, Lord willing, we will commit jihad. We will kill these kafirs that are so stupid that they're believing in their administration and their credibility.
That they're what?
99.9%, that's what they're saying.
That they're
We're
what?
going to kill these kafirs who are stupid enough to believe in their government and the credibility they're giving us.
Is that what they're saying tonight?
99.9%.
So something to that effect. Stupid Americans. Stupid Americans.
Stupid kafirs.
Yeah. And also that we have no backbone. We always give in. And inshallah, God willing, the caliphate will expand.
So if there is a terrorist attack under President Trump's watch, I'll ask each of you again. You first, Hadi, on this one. If there's a terrorist attack and there's ties to Al-Qaeda, ISIS, etc., does Trump, is he damaged politically and historically, or are the American people so easily brainwashed that all they have to do is put out a spin, make up some new group, confuse the folks with a new name or a collection of names that it won't even be registered as to who was doing it, the guy tied back to the White House who was invited to the Oval Office? Jelani.
It's interesting because for me, I'm really concerned about the range of assassinations that we've seen and the nexus, the violent nexus with the red-green axis. So I'm inclined to think actually that it may be a fusion, that the next terrorist attack will use the anarchist networks combined with jihadist ideology, and that it'll be less clear that it's purely jihadi. That's my thought.
So, in other words, it doesn't end up damaging the Trump administration because it doesn't come back into the lap of Jelani. Is that what you're saying?
That would be my guess.
Annie?
I would say that there will be three groups of people. Well, four, about 10% who won't even flinch because they don't think they need to look into politics. We have the 30% who are going to come out and say Israel did it. Jews did it. We have the other 30% that are us who are going to come out and try to connect the dots. And then we have the 30% who are going to come out and say, all the illegals Biden let into the country. All the illegals Biden did it. The Afghans who flew from Afghanistan did it. So it will be a split between Jews did it, Biden did it, and then those of us who are going to connect the dots into the truth of how it happened.
All right.
Now, who Americans are going to listen to, that's depend on which one is more comfortable.
Let me ask you, I love this bouncing back and forth on you with the questions tonight. Hadia, if you were advising the president tonight, what would you say to him? If he's, let's say he gets so much criticism on social media that he's like, I don't know if I trust these people, but I heard about this Hadia Miramani gal. Get her in here. I want to hear what she thinks. What would you say to him tonight?
It'd be very difficult. It'd be very difficult. That train has left the station. So people have asked me all the time, like, why don't you call your friends? Why don't you try to get in the administration? I'm like, are you kidding? Who wants to own this bag? You know, we're so far deep and so far gone, especially with Jelani, that what could you say to somebody that's so egomaniacal that thinks that everything he does is right? So
could you tell him what's coming? Okay, so he's made the mistake. He's pulled the trigger on all these things. And he says, okay, I know I've seen you on Brandon House's program, because we have President Trump saying, what is it? His exact quote, Logan, was what? I've watched Brandon a lot. He's a good guy. Something to that effect. We have on video saying that. Well, I've watched Brandon. I've watched him a lot. Brandon's a good guy. So let's say he has come back to watching a little bit. I saw you the other night on Brandon's program. I already know how you feel about me. But what do you think is going to happen? What would you say? And how is it going to impact the country?
What would a terrorist attack do to impact the country?
No, anything. Going forward.
Oh.
He asked you, I know you've been critical of me. I know you said the trains left the station. I saw you the other night with Brandon and Annie. So just tell me flat out, what do you think is coming? What do you think is going to end up being the outcome of the policies that you say I'm already far down the road on? What's going to happen?
That we're emboldening the Islamist takeover of America. And if he doesn't start rolling it back, we're going to lose our country.
Wow.
You know, so absolutely. Absolutely. If I had the opportunity, I mean, it's the same thing I said to 3 other presidents. So it would.
So you actually said that to George. You said that to who? George H., George W., and Obama?
Yeah.
Or was it Clinton?
No, it was Obama. And actually, I was in Trump's PAC, so I said it to people in his group, you know, in his PAC. I think I might have sent it to Don Jr. too.
But you actually told this to which presidents?
George W., Obama for sure, and Trump's people. So let's put it.
So you were actually in the room and spoke like this to Obama and George W. to their face.
Yes.
Because I've got pictures of you with George W. and Obama. So you shared these things directly with President George W. Bush and President Obama.
Yes, absolutely.
Annie, what would you say if he invited you and said, okay, I've seen you. I know you're critical of me. You're not happy with me right now. What do I need to do? And what do you think is going to be the outcome of my actions, Annie?
I would say there are 5 steps he can take.
Wow, look at that. She's got 5 steps. Ooh, she's ready to go.
I am. I've been thinking about it. Number 1, I would say with all due respect, sir, I need you to open your Bible, stay with your Bible, and meditate in the Lord's words for a couple of days. Then come back, withdraw your Abrahamic peace occurred in Middle East, and let Middle East be the Middle East while you close the borders. And you're going to start monitoring every single mosque, and you're going to start looking into every immigration from Middle Eastern countries, Christian or not, Muslim
like you did in your first term. Well, like you said, you want to monitor these mosques. You want to know what's going on in these mosques. You talked and warned about these mosques. We've played the clip of him saying all that in his first term, or while he was running for his first term.
And last the step, those were the 1, 2, 3, 4. And last, when you find any suspicion movement from mosque or a Muslim activist inside America you haven't picked up. And then we go from there. That would be my 5 steps.
Let's switch topics real quick. Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson talking about...
Do we have to?
Yeah, exactly. Tucker Carlson talking about Nigeria had this to say.
But he's all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, deeply concerned about the plight of Christians in Nigeria, which I want to restate. Maybe a totally valid concern, I don't know. But that's weird. What is that? All of a sudden, everybody's concerned about people who clearly have no track record of being interested in Christians at all, including Ted Cruz. What is going on?
Okay, so he's saying Ted Cruz has become obsessed with Christians in Nigeria. And apparently the guy that he's interviewing is, and I've got an article here, if I can find it real quick. I've got an article by Daniel Greenfield where he's talking about this. Tucker invited on Marxist rep for Nigerian Islamists to deny Christian genocide in Nigeria.
Wow.
Tucker Carlson regularly has on Jeffrey Sachs, a UN official funded by George Soros, and he recently made headlines by inviting Nick Fuentes. Okay, we got that. Now, I guess, Joel Mowbray, who became famous when he exposed how the 9/11 hijackers got their visas, had a flash scoop on who Tucker's guest is, and it's really unbelievable. I was disgusted with when Tucker dismissed Christian genocide in Nigeria and claimed it was really weird that Senator Ted Cruz was talking about it, but this is a whole other level of corruption and plain evil. Tucker Carlson's guest on Friday, who declared that there's no campaign for targeted killings of Christians in Nigeria, is lobbyist of PR flack Robert Amsterdam, had for years represented a leading Nigerian official closely associated with the Fulani Islamists, including the very militants that have been slaughtering Christians in Nigeria. Robert Amsterdam, feted by Carlson as, quote, defending Christians around the world, end quote, represented Nasser El-Rufai, who came from 2015 to 2023, was the governor of the northern Nigerian state of Kaduna, home of the bulk, and we've gone from there. So this is who he's interviewing, Annie.
Did I misheard? Did he say, well, I don't think there's a concern to be, but he's suddenly concerned about it? Did he actually say that there is no concern for Christians in Nigeria?
I think that's what he said. Let me play it again. Just because I want to be accurate. Don't want anyone accusing us of
I think he just went like, which I don't think there is a concern, but suddenly they're obsessed.
Let me go back to the clip.
Okay.
I'm going to find the clip. I got a lot of stuff open here tonight, but here we go. Here it is.
But he's all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, deeply concerned about the plight of Christians in Nigeria, which I want to restate. Maybe a totally valid concern. I don't know. But that's weird. What is that? All of a sudden, everybody's concerned about people who clearly have no track record of being interested in Christians at all. What is that? All of a sudden, everybody's concerned about people who clearly have no track record of being interested in Christians at all, including Ted Cruz. What is...
Let me do it again.
But he's all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, deeply concerned about the plight of Christians in Nigeria, which I want to restate. Maybe a totally valid concern. I don't know.
Maybe it's a valid concern. I don't know.
Yeah, that's.
Wow.
As I said, do we have to talk about Tucker? Because first, it's a very valid concern, Tucker, and it. I mean, what is there to say? Tucker is officially. We talked about it off air, Brandon. I wouldn't be surprised if a video comes out yesterday showing that Tucker has already said the Shahada. He's defending Sharia, he's defending Islamic countries, saying how peaceful they are, and you can leave your keys to your Lamborghini in the car, and there's zero rape, and he one way or another, either that event he explained where he was attacked by the devil never left him. One way or another, he has become an ally of Islam. If he's not a Muslim himself already, he has certainly become an ally. The list of guests he has is pretty clear. Now the question is, why does he still have audience? I go back to what Hediya said earlier, a few minutes ago. Enough of pointing finger. Everybody who's watching Tucker, funding Tucker, giving him platform and rating, those are the people to be blamed. Tucker has made his choice. We all know where he stands. Same thing with Candace Owen. I've said it over and over. Why does Candace Owen still has millions of followers? How much more does she need to say for people to unfollow and to stop supporting her? Same thing applies to Tucker. As you said earlier yourself, Brian, Tucker can have anybody he wants on his show. But those who watch and give it rating are the problem.
Yeah.
Stop.
Well, before I have Hediya respond, here's a missionary on this. Here, listen.
Carlson and all the other naysayers and propagandists, and I don't know how to describe you guys, but this goes out to Tucker Carlson. Tucker, why don't you go visit Nigeria yourself? Why don't you go to the middle belt of Nigeria? Why don't you take yourself to Benue State? Why don't you go take yourself to Plateau? Go take yourself to southern Kaduna. Go take a trip to Taraba. Why don't you go talk to the survivors of these massacres that are now living in total, awful, horrendous conditions. The 3 million Christians that have been displaced from their homes. Why don't you go talk to the survivors of the 7,000 Christians that have been massacred since January 1st? I don't know what game you're playing or who's influencing you or who's paying you behind closed doors to regurgitate a pro-Islamist narrative. But you...
Wow, and he goes on from there. Hadia?
Yeah, I want to point out that, first of all, what he and Candace both do is they throw out statements that people don't independently verify whether they're true. So the International Religious Freedom Commission, and I apologize, I don't have the dates. I actually wrote an article about this for the Christian Post, had designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern. They documented, it's a very long report, they documented the incidences of persecution and death and killing of Christians. The Biden administration moved to remove Nigeria. So this is before, I think they were designated maybe in 2018. Biden administration, I think 2020 goes to remove them. And there are a plethora of Congress people that were shouting about how they got undesignated. And if I'm not mistaken, Senator Cruz was involved in that. So it's extremely disingenuous of him to say Senator Cruz has never cared about Christians. That's totally untrue. And so it's, and the fact that he's making it sound, he's so flippant about the persecution of Christians in Nigeria when the State Department designated them as a result of the persecution. And so why is Trump taking it up? Because it's all over social media. It's all over Christian Broadcasting News and other conservative podcasts that, the government needs to help the Nigerian Christians. And so I can't believe that he's saying, well, it's out of nowhere. Annie's exactly right. He's on this campaign to platform a pro-Islamist perspective in every country, apparently, and Nigeria is one of them.
Wow. Is he planning on running for president? And does he have a prayer?
Apparently, he said today that absolutely, unequivocally, no.
Okay.
I saw that on a PBD broadcast today.
I want to also, again, flip topics here very quickly. I don't know if... Now, by the way, there are some pictures going around on social media of Giuliani holding two heads up. Those are fake, right, Annie? He didn't really do that, right?
I have not even seen him. But then again, I was so busy with the DC situation today, I have not looked at anything else.
Well, this is what's going around on social media, and I'm careful to put, because I don't want to put out fake news, but that's what that's what a lot of people...
No, that's not Giuliani.
That is one of his soldiers from, I think this was 2014 or 20. It was one of his soldiers, but it's not. I'm sorry, I don't know why I heard the name wrong. You said Giuliani.
I did. I thought that's what they're trying to say, but they're trying to say it's this guy down here in the corner, right?
No. The guy
that
with
is
the
him.
bounty.
That is Giuliani, the bounty, the 10 million. That is him. Okay,
the
so
bounty
who's holding the heads?
That was one of Giuliani's soldiers.
Okay.
This was 2014, I want to say. This was about the time that they were designated actually as terrorist group, but that is not Giuliani himself.
But that's one of his guys.
It is one of his guys. Yes, this is a Syrian Giuliani soldier. Yes, jihadist.
Any idea who the former bodies belong to?
The two heads he's holding?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I remember when the reports came out, they were Christian Syrians, but no name was attached to them. The reports came out with, it was the very heat of killing Christians. It was before they picked on Druses, they were picking on Christians. So the report originally said that they were just two Christians who were beheaded, but no names attached.
On another topic, now this is going so fast here, but here is this is, I think, a pretty well-known rabbi, Emil Hirsch, and he met with Mondani in August. Listen to this.
In late August, after the primaries, several prominent and liberal New York City rabbis spent an hour with him. We entered with open hearts and open minds. Most of us had never met the candidate, and we were interested in taking the measure of the man. As the meeting unfolded, our mood steadily darkened and our fears increased. Zoran Mamdani is an ideologically committed, dogmatic opponent of the Zionist idea. He is not simply a critic of Israel. Policy differences are central to democratic discourse and entirely legitimate. But Mayor-elect Mamdani does not believe in coexistence. He does not believe in two states for two peoples. His opposition to Israel is existential. He believes that Israel has no right to exist at all as a Jewish state in any territory. This, of course, is the position of Israel's most implacable foes. It is the ideology of Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and their supporters in the West. The reason this talented politician with such impressive verbal skills has been unable to convincingly explain away his support for the refrains globalize the Intifada, free Palestine, from the river to the sea, is that these slogans represent his core beliefs. He doesn't hide it. To the contrary, he's proud of it. The struggle for the Palestinian liberation was at the core of my politics and continues to be, he proclaimed in a 2023 keynote speech to the Democratic Socialists of America. None of this is about coexistence. What most of those who shout globalize the Intifada mean is October 7th. For most of them, free Palestine means October 7th. From the river to the sea means October 7th.
He is a very gifted communicator. Mm-hmm. Very gifted communicator. I can tell you, I've been doing this 36 years, and that man is very gifted. He came prepared. He's very aware of his body language. He is sending multiple messages here. I can just tell you, studying him and watching him, and I don't know that I've ever watched him before. If I have, who knows? Because I've watched so many thousands upon thousands over the years. But that guy is very gifted. And everything he says is 100% right. Would that we had 100 evangelical pastors that we could point to that have said that from their church pulpits. But I don't think I can find 100. Adia?
Yeah, so well said. Really so well said. And I was watching a show about the exit polls that they were taking in New York, and largely, I think it was like 40%, it was a referendum on anti-Israel sentiments. They voted for him because of his anti-Israel stance. So this is really a referendum on how much Israeli hatred and Jewish hatred is in the nation right now. I really think that that's what a large portion of his victory means. It's also the economy, but I think a large portion of it is just how that the rise of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment is rampant in America right now.
Annie?
Agreed. And did you notice, I agree with both of you on the what a great communicator this rabbi is, but did you notice, coming from this great communicator, a compliment to Zoran Mamdani's ability of being verbally talented? Something I pointed out. Said, when you listen to Mamdani, if you don't know much about Islam, you will fall for everything he says. That's why I called him Obama 2.0, between being charismatic and being very ready to talk, use the right terms, put the right emphasis on the right end of the sentence, is exactly why it was hard to get people to understand Mamdani is exactly what this rabbi is pointing out, because a lot of Americans are used to seeing, a jihadist or anti-American or pro-Islam guy as the shouting, screaming, angry guy. They just couldn't. I had people who would tell me that, look at him. Does he look like he's gonna commit jihad? I'm like, I didn't know it's based on the looks. Listen to him instead of looking at him. Listen to him. He's right. Mamdani has never corrected, or he's been asked many times his thoughts on October 7th. He always switched it around and made it about the Gaza genocide by Israel. But everything Hediya said, plus the fact that I know people are tired of the left and right options, that is another reason Mamdani also won. A lot of people are ready for the third person, for the stranger, for the new chance, rather than the repeated reading of the same book expecting different result. Democrats, Republican, they both tend to basically play the same game now, naming it differently. That's what scares me for midterm. That's why I'm worried midterm might be a heavy green wave due to this issue of, one, anti-Semitism, two, people are tired of left and right. They're looking for a new guy who could be a socialist Islamist, could be a socialist, anything except left or right.
I want to, as we get ready to wrap, play another video. Maybe you have not seen this one, but there was a Knesset member today that accused Benjamin Netanyahu of sending a stand-down order and allowing October 7th to happen. Now, I know Israel has their own deep state, okay? I stand with the Jewish people. I understand the Bible, what it says about Israel. They will come back to being a nation, the dry bones of Ezekiel. But then it says after that, then there's the breath of life. That's the Holy Spirit, okay? So for the most part, the Jews in Israel are in unbelief, okay? I'm being patient and waiting for what the Lord's going to do with them. So let's understand, that doesn't mean that because I stand with the Jewish people and understand what God's plan is for the Jewish people and understand their biblical and historical right to the land, does not mean, as I'm going to say again, I endorse everything that goes on in the Israeli government. They have a deep state just like we do. They have godless people in their government, some of them wicked in their government like we do, right? I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I do know I've interviewed Alan Dershowitz many times. Alan says he was a Jewish gentleman, for those who don't know, was in those towers before October 7th and said he knew a lot of those young ladies who were sitting there watching and monitoring the screens. Some of them, he said, have autism, and their autism gives them a special skill set to see and recognize things other people don't see. We have that on video, my interview with Alan Dershowitz. And he said, I don't know what went on there. But what I want to play for you folks, and the reason I'm playing it is simply because this is going to continue to be used to draw out the enemies of Israel. Watch what was said today from the Knesset. And I think Netanyahu was sitting right there. You're going to have to read the subtitles, obviously, unless you speak Hebrew, because I'm pretty sure that's what that is.
בנימין נתניהו, מאשימה אותך בטבח ה-7 באוקטובר. האסון הגדול ביותר שידעה המדינה קרה במשמרתך. גם אם אתה ישן עם מצפון נקי, לא נשכח לך, נזעק את ההפקרה, תקום ועדת חקירה ממלכתית. אני מאשימה אותך, בנימין נתניהו, במימון החמאס, בבניית הטרור, ועצימת העיניים האיום הקיומי עלינו, בהפקרת ביטחון המדינה כמדיניות. ביטחון הוא לא אינסטרומנט פוליטי, שמעת? הוא מעל הכל. אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, הפכת את הציבור העובד והמשרת לחמורו של משיח. יצרת את ברית ההשתמטות והסיפוח. גבורת הלוחמים נעלמה מעיניך, אבל לא מעינינו. היא האור שאיתו נבנה מחדש. אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, השחיתות האישית שלך הפכה למכת מדינה. כל מושחת הופך שותף. ככל שיש לך תיק יותר גדול על מישהו, הוא יותר נוח לך. משפט של איש אחד לקח מדינה שלמה כבת ערובה. אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, כי שכחת מה זה להיות יהודי. טראמפ החזיר חטופים במקומך, בזמן שאתה, בלי חשומה, התעסקת בלרתום אותו לחנינה. עשרות חטופים נרצחו ונהרגו בשבי, כשאתה לא קיימת את מצוות פדיון שבויים, חסר מצפון ובלי אלוהים. אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, הגזענות תמיד שירתה אותך. קראת אותנו מבפנים, הפכת חצי עם לאויב. אז נתניהו, אני המרוקאית, המסורתית ממגדל העמק אומרת לך, אנחנו נשבור את החומות שבנית, אנחנו ננקה את הרעל ששפכת פה 30 שנה, אנחנו נחזור להיות חברה מאוחדת. אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, רוצחים פה אזרחים כאילו הם אבק אדם. משילות, עלק. כשהליכוד מתנהל כמו ארגון פשע, ארגוני הפשיעה מרימים ראש. אני מאשימה אותך, נתניהו, כן, בהקרבת החיים עצמם. אנשים גמורים תחת המציאות הכלכלית, לא יודעים איך להיכנס לסופר ולשלם חשבונות. הכל פה הפך יקר, רק החיים תחתיך הפכו לזולים עד כאב.
Well, I played all that, if you could keep up with the subtitles, because I promise you this is going to be used, and I want everybody to have a clear mind about this. And I don't know what went on there that day. And I know many people believe there was a delayed response, that warnings were being sent up, that there was rehearsals going on, and that they should have been more vigilant. I don't know. And that's not my job to figure this out or defend every aspect of the Israeli government. But I do want to point out that this is happening. Now, I'm gathering, unless someone can correct me, this woman is actually Jewish, because the Knesset has members that are Arab, and I don't pick up that she's Arab. I think she's actually...
She's Moroccan.
She's Moroccan.
She said, as a Moroccan woman, Jewish woman, she's Moroccan.
Okay, so...
She didn't say Jewish, though. She said Moroccan. So do we know she's Jewish?
We do, based on the fact that she said, you have, to Netanyahu, you have forgotten what being a Jew means. We will reteach you. We will rebuild the unity.
Okay, so I wanted to get to that. What I picked up that she was probably Jewish, but I want to make sure she wasn't Arabic because, Arab, because they do have Arabs in the Knesset, for those who don't know. Well, if it's such an apartheid state, how do they have Arabs in their Knesset and on their Supreme Court, et cetera, right? So the average moron on the street doesn't know these things. They just parrot propaganda and lies. But I bring this up just simply to show that this will now be used by the anti-Semites to say even his own people say that he was funding Hamas, he was behind it, he let it happen. I don't know what the truth is, but it does not change anything related to the horrors of Hamas and their charter and their goal to wipe out the Jews. And I don't want people so caught up on this infighting they have over there in their country that it is used to somehow make us forget about who the real enemy is here, because it's the same enemy we have as a country. What are your thoughts on that, Hadia?
Couple of things. Funding Hamas. Okay, so he's been forced to deal with Hamas in charge of Gaza since 2005. He's been sending aid. He's allowed them to rebuild. He's been forced into that situation by Western powers in the UN. So did he fund Hamas? Yeah, technically, indirectly, he did. He did. And so in their attempt to have, it's kind of, that could have been a discussion on the floor of Congress about the things that Trump does. So it's basically the other party that's unhappy with the way he's governed and accusing him of all kinds of things. Now, October 7th, let's just assume for a second that there was a stand down order. Does that mean those were Jews dressed up? Were they actors that came and raped and pillaged and destroyed the people of in that area? Or are they Palestinians? Are they Hamas supporters? And it's not just Hamas. Remember, Annie commented early on a broadcast I watched that they were you had videos of the little kids stealing TVs from the Israeli homes. So if he just stood there and said, you know what, I want you to see what these guys will do when our defenses are down, and that's what happened, it's still the commission of atrocities by Hamas and the Palestinians. And that's still a reality. Should he have done more to protect his people? I don't know the answer to that either. But the accusations sound like a typical right-left fight here in the United States, is that, you know, one side doesn't like what you're doing and they hurl these accusations at you. But yet, you know, we've had all these discussions about who committed 9/11. Well, the U.S. government allowed 9/11. You know, I was there in D.C. on 9/11. I saw them blow up the Pentagon. And do I believe that the U.S. government did it? Should they have done more to have stopped the terrorists? Did they have enough signs? Should we have been a little, you know, more vigilant about terrorist attacks? Sure. But did the U.S. blow up the Pentagon? I don't want to believe that the U.S. government did that. So I think it's a very similar situation for Netanyahu.
Well, you actually had a group that said it was going to happen, and you guys were called cult members and crazy and pushed to the corner. And then when 9/11 happened, they all invited you back in the room.
Yes, then I was the golden girl. Yeah, I wasn't the crazy lunatic on the side anymore. So yeah, I mean, there's all these things. There's so many data points of people that pointed to the threat of a terrorist attack by airplanes at 9/11.
But you see why I played that tonight, right? Wanted you guys to comment?
Yeah.
Because this is going to be used for propaganda. And I just want people to understand what she's saying. And Annie and I want you to respond now, which, by the way, look at this. Report, U.S. takes over from Israel and distributing aid in Gaza. That's the headline. So are we now funding Hamas?
Yes.
Right?
Technically, yes.
But that's what people could say. So again, we would have to have a more accurate debate on the, you know, on this. But did Netanyahu build Hamas, Annie?
Okay, so I actually published a Substack on this. The accusations.
Of course you did. Annie has a Substack for everything, by the way.
Yes.
What can I say? Okay,
Well, you're good at your job. That's what you can say.
Thank you. That's what I did on my morning Substack. I said, this is going to be a short one because I'm out of things to explain. I've done my job. It's now your turn. But the Hamas funding, it's not Netanyahu. It's they claim Israel funded Hamas. It actually goes before 2005. So while Israeli government was trying to figure out what to do with PLO, they allowed Hamas back then as a group. They allowed Hamas to keep their 501c status, calling it 501c, so they could continue raising money from Palestinians, not Jews, from Palestinians to raise enough money to become a political party. They did. They won the election. They kicked PLO. That is where the story of funding Hamas comes from. There was no, by the way, the aids are not Israeli funding Hamas either. A lot of those aids are coming from United Nations. They're coming from Red Cross. It's not even Israel giving them the aids. The story of accusing Israel of funding Hamas goes before Hamas even became the government and people voted for. It's from the time of Hamas trying to build a name for itself, where Israel allowed them to have their mosque, their Islamic center with the 501c or tax deductible to raise money and become a voice. That's the root of accusation. Second thing I want to bring anybody, now I'm not going to even address anti-Semites because you have made up your mind. I'm tired. I will address those who might listen to this video and be rattled. Number one, as an American, when you listen to this, she says, Netanyahu, I accuse you of. She doesn't show proof. This is not a trial. He was not found guilty. We can walk around and accuse each other of anything we like to. That does not mean we have committed the crime. So keep that. He repeatedly say, I accuse you of. I accuse you of. Accusations hold no credibility whatsoever. That's number one. The second thing, she is clearly angry that Netanyahu didn't get the hostages back sooner. He was trying to get a pardon from Trump while Trump was getting the hostages out. This is not because I'm very disappointed in Trump today. No, this is listen to words and look at the PR campaign, crediting Trump for technically something that has nothing to do with the scenario. Trump doesn't even have the power to pardon Bibi. Did Trump request a delay on Bibi's trial during the peace negotiation? Yes. That is not a pardon. What I'm trying to say, I don't know who this lady is. What I do know is just reading the subtitles, there were way too many holes in her accusations to make it anything more than propaganda for me.
Wow. A couple more clips. The Scottish leader of the Labour Party, that'd be your Fabian Socialist, says that they know who all the unvaccinated people are. Well, if you guys are so good at knowing who all the unvaccinated people are, why don't you know where all the jihadis are in these various countries?
Test and protect. I would get the vaccine rollout up, ramped up, rather than we know who's not vaccinated. We know where they live. We know who's not vaccinated. We know where they live. We should be looking at door-to-door vaccination.
Wow, if you guys know that,
door-to-door vaccination?
Wow. Well, if they have such great technology, why don't they go and round up all the Islamists before they commit terror attacks? And then finally, James Carville says what's coming. And of course, this is really scary for all of us, and particularly freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the growth of Islam, legalizing all kinds of illegal immigrants to vote and kissing the republic goodbye. Listen to what James Carville predicts.
It's going to happen. A Democrat is going to be elected in 2028. You know that. I know that. It's going to be a Democratic House. It's going to be a Democratic Senate. The Democratic president is going to announce a special transition advisory committee on the reform of the Supreme Court, that we could have our third branch of government has lost the faith and trust of the American people, and his president would are going to do everything along. He's going to appoint a blue ribbon, maybe Judge Ludick and the dean of the, just the usual suspects, all right? And they're going to recommend that the number of Supreme Court justices go from 9 to 13. That's going to happen, people. That's going to happen to you. They're going to win. They're going to do some blue ribbon panel of distinguished jurists, and they are going to recommend 13, and a Democratic Senate and House is going to pass it, and the Democratic president is going to sign it, because they have to do an intervention so we can have a Supreme Court that the American people trust again. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And I would bet a lot of money that that's what's going to happen. A lot.
Wow. Closing comment from you, Hadia?
Is that supposed to be in support of doing that, or no?
Oh, no, I think he's in support of it.
Because it's hard to tell by listening to it.
I think he's in support of it. That's James Carville. You know who he is, right?
Of course, but it sounded like he was being critical of it. Taken in a vacuum, you couldn't really understand.
Well, that's true, but taking who it is, I think he's in favor of it.
Yeah, his last statement saying,
because he said that the Supreme Court is nobody trusted anymore.
Yeah, that a Supreme Court you could trust. So my closing comments on him, or just
everything in general, everything in general we've been discussing tonight, because it all fits together. Because can you imagine what a progressive, socialist, Marxist, Islamic Supreme Court? Because they would have to throw a Muslim on there at least, right? The red-green axis needs to be rewarded. Can you imagine our first full admitted Islamist sitting there?
I wouldn't be surprised. Look at Ismail Royer. He's on the Religious Freedom Commission. A known convicted felon terrorist who served time is on our Religious Freedom Commission. So I don't think it's far away. But my closing thoughts is, I always want to bring this back, because your audience is largely a Christian population. Bring this back to the church. I think it's time for America's church to wake up and realize that it is our duty to respond. It's to get activated. Even in my local church, I went to my youth pastor and I said, listen, are we going to educate these kids about Islam? And he's like, yes, I want you to come and teach a series of classes, because I want them equipped to the challenge. So, we need to go in our own communities and equip our congregations and our people to face the challenge of Islam. Don't sell your property. Don't sell your churches to a mosque. Don't elect the Muslim candidates. If this is a fight over freedom, then let's fight for freedom. But that requires us to give blood, money, toil towards that cause. And we can't just keep throwing things at the TV. We have to actually do something about it. And our republic is built in a way in which we can do stuff about it. So if all of the evangelical Christians who never vote in an election actually started voting, we could change the demographics. We could change the way these voting outcomes end up in our school boards, our city councils, our state reps, all of it. We have to start getting involved. We can't just sit back and let the atheists and the agnostics and the socialists and the Islamists take over our country. And if they end up doing it, shame on us.
Absolutely. Closing comment from you, Annie.
I agree with everything Hadia said, but I'm going to add I'm going to take it one step back. Before you can vote, we need the right people, the good people, faithful people to start running. I know it's hard, but if we don't start picking up running, we're always going to end up with the lesser evil, lesser evil, lesser evil until there is nothing left except evil. So if you can, locally run, statewide, federally, whatever, and don't give up just because you failed the first time doesn't mean you go home and you're like, I tried. The problem is we do not have good candidates. People can vote as much as they want. But if we don't give them better candidates, good candidates, somebody who has the understanding, but most importantly, I know I'm not supposed to say this, but I'll say it. Try to understand if your candidate, it's not living life by the words of God, they will always be somehow bought because they don't have the moral compass it takes to lead this nation. So we need good people to run. And when you see a neighbor running for a position that could help your community, get behind them. Donate, go knock at doors for them. It's we the people. There is still we the people left. So let's do something. And then I'm going to self-promote because this is important. I finally got the chance to write a Substack that will be published tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. I'm sorry it is behind paywall because I have bills to pay. But I finally wrote and cracked the moment you all been waiting for. I cover the truth of when World War III will start or has it already started, just using historical facts. So if you don't mind, subscribe, read that.
So we all have to go to sleep on that tonight? I think it's already started. Are you telling me that you have a specific date?
Well, I can't spoil it.
Okay, all right.
I basically went back in time to remind people of the prediction of World War III that we all forgot.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to wait till tomorrow. And it's going to be right here. Yes, it's going to be on my Substack. And again, it is behind paywall, but it's just $8 a month. That's not much. For
you, Brandon, I will email you the draft tonight so you can actually read it.
Thank you. liveuptofreedom.substack.com. And let's promote Hadia's site, resurrectministry.com. I think it is off the top of my head. Resurrectministry.com. Resurrectministry.com.
You can follow me on Instagram with my name.
And follow her on Instagram with her name, Hadia Miramati.
There's an H in there, though.
She's, come on.
I'm saying there's an H. So when people spell it,
okay,
they know there's an H that's not being pronounced, so they can spell her name correctly.
Right. I'm so blessed to have you two gals in my life and in our network of broadcast partners.
Thank you. The honor and privilege is mine.
And by the way, can I just show you my other gal that I work with regularly? She's over here. There she is.
Oh.
Hey, Dolly.
Hi, Pippi.
There you are. There you are. We finally got the Dolly cam fixed tonight, didn't we? Yeah, we got the Dolly cam fixed.
She's looking at you like, Dad, are we done yet?
Are you ready to go?
Bed.
Are you ready for bed? You want to go to bed? You want to go snuggle? Yeah, she knows the word snuggle. Yeah, you know the word snuggle.
Here you go.
She knows the word snuggle. I can promise you that. Last night, yeah, you're big babies, what you are. Last night, I said to my wife, scoot over here and snuggle. And as soon as I said the word snuggle, she jumped up from the foot of the bed like a rocket and got in between us because she thought I was inviting her because I will often say to her, you want to snuggle? You want to snuggle? And she'll come up and lay down by
hysterical.
me. She heard the word snuggle. I didn't think she really knew the word, but I said to my wife, slide over here and snuggle. And Dolly thought I was talking to her. And my wife was like, holy cow, that was fast. She understands you. I'm like, yeah. My wife said, how many words does she know? I say, I don't know, but she knows a lot of words. You know a lot of words, don't you? Yeah. Now, if I had a black lab, that would really make the Muslims upset, wouldn't it? Because they hate dogs, but they really hate black dogs. So maybe you need to get you a black sister, a black lab sister, huh? Anyway, do you guys have dogs? Annie, you don't. You have cats. Do you have a dog, Hadia?
No, my husband's a professional dog trainer for 40 years, and we have no
He's
dogs.
tired of dogs. He trained all kinds of shepherds and other dogs for the law department.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. I had to sneak Dolly into the broadcast tonight, so there you go.
I'm glad you did. After all the stress and frustration of the day, it was lovely to see her.
I know, right?
Her cuteness. Yes.
Isn't that the truth? All right. Thank you, guys. You do a great job.
Thank you, Brennan.
Thank you.
All right, guys, before we take a quick break and continue our broadcast tonight, don't forget, coming up December 4 and 5, that's a Thursday and a Friday, we're going to be doing our International Worldview Weekend. That's a Thursday and a Friday. We're going to do an international online worldview conference, and we have invited a ton of speakers. We're inviting them to do about 15, 20 minutes in keynote presentations on whatever they want, and then we'll ask them questions. And then in many of the cases, we'll open up the phone lines. It'll be that Thursday and Friday, absolutely free. Thursday and Friday, December 4 and 5. Tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social. Tell all your family and friends about it, won't you? And will you do us another favor? Will you remember us in your end of the year giving? It is so important that we have a very big November and December for end of the year giving. Because we need to be able to set our budgets for 2026. Free television is not free. It's extremely expensive on our end. But folks, look, we just did a nice long interview with no commercial breaks. Any other network would have been breaking every 5, 6, 7 minutes. But not us, because we want to put truth front and center. We want to educate people. We don't want to lose people by taking so many commercial breaks. And if you appreciate the fact that we respect you that much and that we're so committed to the cause as not to all be about selling product nonstop, then will you honor that commitment of ours, that professionalism, that standard we have here by actually listening and paying attention when I do mention things like this? Don't tune out. So please go right now, will you? Worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you to all of you that do give. And you'll find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail, worldviewfoundation.com. All right, so my friends, it's vital that we have your support. Okay? Vital. Worldviewfoundation.com. We'll be right back after this break. Go to worldviewtalk.com. Get your satellite phone like I have, because you know what? China is in on our power grid. That is a matter of proven fact. If you want to have communications with your loved ones, your family, your children, maybe your spouse travels, maybe you have a child away at college, you want communication should the grid go down. That's why you need a satellite phone, worldviewtalk.com. But look what else they have. They also have solar generators. I have one of their solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400, a solar generator. So I can, of course, charge my satellite phone. I can run my coffee pot. I can run my whole house if I want to. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com, or use that number, 1-866-738-3224. They have very friendly operators that will explain to you their products, but you can explain to them what it is you're desiring to acquire. How much electricity are you wanting to generate with this solar generator? Well, they'll tell you what size you need. Worldviewtalk.com or 1-866-738-3224.